Seth, why so popular?
Well, first, thank you for not calling me a guru, because I'm not a guru, even though I have no hair and sometimes sit on a mountaintop. I think that getting in early and persisting like a crazy person matters. I've been blogging for 7 years. I wrote my first book about the internet 15 years ago. One of the things that happens online is that some of it doesn't disappear. So if you show up and you show up and you show up and you show up, the old stuff compounds on the new stuff. A lot of people want to go try the new thing, the next thing, be the first on this, the first on this, the first on this. And they're so busy flitting from thing to thing, they don't build a voice. That's one reason. And I think the other reason is that I notice things. And I tell people what I notice. I try to be generous about that telling. Not a tit for tat, but just here, what do you think of this? And sometimes if people can point out things to you that you already know, but describe it in a way that helps you take action on it, it becomes a really neat relationship. Because you can now go do something, not because I told you to, but because I helped you notice what you should do in the first place. So I'm not necessarily a guide or a leader. I'm more of a map maker, somebody who can point out the sites, and you got to figure out where you want to go.
How did you learn those skills? Were they intuitive? Were they acquired when you were a young man?
A lot of what I know, I learned teaching canoeing in Canada.
Canoeing?
Canoeing. When I was 17 years old, I became the canoeing instructor at a camp with a couple hundred kids. And the magic there was, unlike most summer camps where they beat you up and hang your underwear from a tree and play baseball, at this camp, it was in a national park in Canada. And you had to do something, but it didn't matter what it was. So you could sail, or you could canoe, or you could ride, or whatever. And no one wanted to go canoeing because it was hard and it was windy and the boats are 17 feet long and you're 10 years old. What are you going to do? So I had to charm people and cajole people and encourage people to go do this thing that they didn't originally want to do. And I learned to tell stories, and I learned to create excitement around something that previously hadn't been exciting. And by doing that, and then being able to connect one-on-one with ultimately thousands of people over the years, I sort of got this knack for putting on a show that resonated with both me and with the person who was engaged in it.
So you're a showman?
Yeah, I think so. Showman sometimes gets a bad rap because that implies that there's something hollow behind it. Like Julie Taymor, the woman who did The Lion King and is now doing Spider-Man. You could call her a showman, right? But when she does...
a showwoman.
A showwoman. When she does her work right, you leave the theater elevated, better than when you went in before. Whereas P.T. Barnum was also a showman, but people left feeling a little ripped off. So I'd rather be the former kind of show person, somebody who is willing to put on a show to get you where you wanted to go in the first place.
Do you see yourself as an instinctive entrepreneur?
Well, yeah, for sure. I also, right when I started being a canoeing instructor, I started being an entrepreneur. I sold ice cream sandwiches. I had a ski club. I ran a business in college that was the biggest student-run business in the country with my partner. That's always been my knack. And I think the reason is that I don't want to wait for someone to tell me to go do something. That if I see that there's an opportunity, if I see that there's something that needs to be fixed or adjusted or improved, I want to just go do it. And the magic of being an entrepreneur is you can. And that you get to play again tomorrow if what you did today worked out pretty well.
For those of us who have had the misfortune of not being as instinctive as you and not having the 10-year-old experience at the canoe camp, is there still hope?
Oh, yeah. I think that, you know, I'm never going to be able to slam dunk a basketball. There's just no hope. It's physically impossible. But there are lots of things I've learned to do in the last 2 years or 5 years or 20 years that I wasn't born able to do, but that one can learn to do. One can learn to play the harmonica. One can learn to juggle. I think that it's not overreaching to say that one can learn to start things, that you can learn to be a small-scale entrepreneur, that you could learn to be a large-scale entrepreneur, that you could learn to give up your safe job and become a freelancer in a world that wants freelancers. All these things, you know, we have software that we can program ourselves with up here to let ourselves learn to do something new. And I think it's a little bit of an excuse to say, well, I didn't get started when I was 20, so I can't do it now.
Seems to me that you're simultaneously a teacher and an entrepreneur. Do you think the best teachers have to be, in a sense, entrepreneurial?
Well, the word entrepreneur is...
And I mean it in a, not necessarily a financial
sense. So we got to
sense.
use it in the metaphorical way, which is taking something and putting it into a system that gets you something bigger.
Extracting value.
Extracting value. Well, we don't need teachers who will read a script in front of the class, because we now can hand the script straight to the students, whether it's on video or written. What we need are teachers that can do broken field running, that can see how this connects to that and help the person make the leap. And that skill is very different. I mean, I've met some entrepreneurs, financial entrepreneurs, who can never teach anything. But there are similar skills in that you take something that's not all put together yet. You put it together, you sew it up, and you say, here. And that win, that transformation, is one of the things that makes me so excited about teaching, is watching the nickel drop and seeing somebody who was struggling yesterday being successful tomorrow, just because all you did was connect two things for them.